Hello, if you've been here before, welcome back. If not, hi. My name is David. I make videos talking about media that I want to talk about. This is my April reading recap, where I recap all of the books that I've finished reading in the month of April. This month has not, I would say, not as productive as usual, or like compared to like March, but definitely higher quality than the past few months, I would say. Some of these books have been like real bangers. So, overall, spoiler alert for some of these. I'll have the chapters in the description so you can skip around if you so desire, and let's get into it. The first book I finished this month was The Andromeda Strain by Michael Crichton. This is a 3.5 out of 5 for me. I love Michael Crichton a lot. I have read Jurassic Park, Jurassic Park 2, Micro. I read Next. Next was fine, and I think that's it. I think I read like one other one, but I didn't. It was through the library, but whatever. This was the next Michael Crichton I read, and I liked it a lot. I really liked the setup and the mystery that was set up for the Andromeda strain, the titular bitular, as Athena P would say. And I really liked, the buildup of like, what is this alien organism and what is it doing? How does it kill people? Why is it this old man and this baby survived? And it's really cool when it's talking about the underground lab that they have that's all secret and stuff with like the 7 different layers of hell. No, it's 7 different layers of disinfected. Actually, I think it's like 15 or something. It is excessive and also like really well planned out. I think, however, that the ending was not that good, and I think that the characters could have been better. It's very. When was this written? I forget. I believe it was written in 1969. Nice. And the characters, they're all a bunch of straight white men, and I like to see a little bit more diversity. They're very one-note characters, and they have interesting things to them, but it's just like that one interesting thing. But I can definitely see why Andromeda Strain is one of like the most popular Michael Crichton stories. I think it became a movie that wasn't that successful, I think, and then a TV show that, when I looked it up, said it was very loosely connected to the book, and so it's just, to me, it's a product of the times. And I mean, look at how old this cover is. Like, I got this from thrift books. So, yeah, it was a fine story. I liked it. It's a 3.5 out of 5 for me. There's been other Michael Crichton stories that I've much more enjoyed. Micro is my favorite Michael Crichton story that he wrote, that was published posthumously because Michael Crichton's dead. Rest in peace. And yeah, I think I wanted to read this one for some time. Finally got my hands on it, and yeah, it was fine. 3.5. The next book I read was Physik by Angie Sage. It is book 3 of the Septimus Heap series. I've been going through the series. Last month I read the second book, Flight, and so this is the third book. I have the fourth book ready. I'll be reading it in, what's the next month? May. And yeah, I like this. It was a 4 out of 5 for me. As I said before, I couldn't really remember much of this book, honestly, but I did remember Marcellus Pye, who's one of the main antagonists, I guess, in this series, who's like this old man who does time travel stuff to get immortal. It's a lot of lore. It's a lot of lore that's happening, and I feel like this is a true sequel to Magic, and a lot of things are changed and a lot of things happen that feel like an actual true sequel, unlike Flight, which felt like just a continuation, if that makes sense. I'm trying to find the picture of the old man, Marcellus Pye. I love this man. I hate him. I love him. He's, what's it called? He's not my Blorbo, but he's definitely a wet sopping mess, is, I guess, how some people say it. The main antagonist of the book is his mother, Queen Etha. Oh my god, it's always a long ass name too, isn't it? Come on, Angie. Queen Etheldreda is a really great antagonist, a different antagonist than what we saw in Flight and in Magic, the first book, which, you know, in those first two, it was like a dark wizard, you know, a wizard that does dark stuff compared to what Septimus Heap and Marsha Overstrand, you know, those, it was Dom Daniel, and then Septimus's brother Simon, you know, were the main antagonists. And honestly, they're kind of boring. But Etheldreda being a ghost from the past that's like extra ghostly or extra corporeal, unghostly, yeah, she was a really cool antagonist, specifically because she had so much planning that she could do and so much plans that she enacted, which ended up failing because she didn't really think about how Marcellus Pye would react to her, especially thinking that Marcellus would totally be on her side when in reality he was working against her, which a really great revelation there as well. And the only issue that I have with this book is that the ending felt very rushed, and it definitely felt like it was definitely setting up for the next book quest, because Etheldreda is defeated in a very rushed way, in a way that I felt was not as satisfying as I wanted it to be. And Nico and the new character Snorri, who is introduced here, I love Snorri as well, get trapped in the past, and that's basically setting up like, hey, next book we'll be saving them in quest, so check back in for quest. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I was going to, you don't have to try to convince me, which is why I was like, I don't really like that. But the expansion of the lore, the addition of Physik and alchemy, spelled differently, obviously, is really good. And so I really like this book because of those aspects. And I know that I'll like Quest because I do remember Quest a lot more, hopefully. I might be proven wrong. We'll see. And yeah, it's a 4 out of 5 for me. I am very surprised of how much I have not remembered from Septimus Heap. And I'm very pleasantly surprised that I'm enjoying it as much as I am. And here, at least, the adults aren't acting as bad as they did in the last book, so that's also a point for it. So yes, really good book. The next book I read was the Hork-Bajir Chronicles by K.A. Applegate. This is part of the Animorphs Chronicles spin-off series. I covered the Andalite Chronicles last book recap. I was just finishing up this book when I was doing that, and oh my god, it is so good. It takes what was done technically, like technical aspects of writing, what it does in Andalite Chronicles, and buffs it out and makes it more efficient in this book here. Both, I would say, are some sort of like war epic in a way. It's really, I mean, I think epic sounds like a larger story when it's in reality both were pretty small, but also Andalite Chronicles really long. Hork-Bajir Chronicles was about the same length as the other Megamorph books, other spin-off books, slightly longer than the normal series line of books, but still a little larger than usual, but not as long as Andalite Chronicles, which was pretty long. But the amazing melodrama and amazing emotion that was present in Andalite Chronicles was more efficiently written in this story, specifically adding in the emotion of the romance between the main characters, Aldrea, who is an Andalite, and Dakami, who is a Hork-Bajir. And it's covering the very beginning of the Andalite and Yeerk War. It specifically covers the inciting incident of the war, which is a bunch of Geds being controlled by Yeerks attacking an Andalite outpost, taking a bunch of weapons, a bunch of ships, and killing a bunch of Andalites, and basically setting off the war. And we follow Aldrea, who is the daughter of Ciro, who is the Andalite who gave technology to the Yeerks that allowed them to become intergalactic conquerors and started the war. And so Ciro was basically not exiled, but definitely like disgraced and embarrassed because he basically allowed for the start of the war. And they're sent to this random planet that no one cares about, just to make sure that, you know, the Yeerks aren't going to be there. Just, you know, stay there, basically in exile. And that planet is the Hork-Bajir world. There, Aldrea meets Dakhami, who is a Hork-Bajir seer, which like one in every like 1,000 Hork-Bajir children are born with this like extra intelligence that helps the population meet some sort of challenge. And he's like the latest of that line. It's very rare for a seer to happen. He is granted a lot more intelligence than any normal Hork-Bajir. And they befriend each other. The Yerks arrive, kill Aldrea's entire family. Again, I was listening through this with the Audiomorphs podcast, and Daniel, who reads them, his performance of Aldrea reacting in such visceral pain at the death of her family, amazing. A beautiful, beautiful performance, heart-wrenching. And then it's Aldrea and Dakhami dealing with the war and becoming guerrilla fighters and stuff like that. And it is just an amazingly beautifully written story that adds in like this romance between Aldrea and Dakhami that does not feel rushed at all. It feels so natural how they like stumble upon each other in a way. And I absolutely adored the writing. For the 5 out of 5 for me. I would say it's one of my favorite Animorph books of all time. And, maybe we'll see soon if that's true or not. So yeah, it's a 5 out of 5 for me. I loved the Hork-Bajir Chronicles so much. The writing is amazing. Daniel's performance is amazing. I loved Aldrea and Dakhami, and I adore this series so much. The next book I read is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. Oh my god. Okay, so it's a 4.5 out of 5 for me. It got so close to a 5-star for me because I honestly was really surprised of how much I liked this book, because a lot of the time when this book first came out and then after the fact, most of what I heard about it is that it's kind of mid. And I was like, I'm just gonna want to read it because I want to watch the movie, because Sunrise came out, and I want to have the entire body of work consumed. And I was like, I'm just gonna read it and see how it goes. And oh my god, I was so surprised with how much I liked this book. Coriolanus Snow is a very interestingly written character. He's interesting, he's compelling, I'm invested in his story only through his relationships. His relationships with Lucy Gray and Sejanus are the only reason I wanted to keep reading through his point of view, as well as his relationship with Tigress as well. Because otherwise, without those relationships, I could not have kept with the book. But it's still really well written as well. And I enjoy how much, I want to say the first third of the book is really well written in terms of building up him and Lucy Gray's relationship. And then the moment where she performs in front of a live stage on TV before the Hunger Games begins, and he immediately has this, my arm's hurting, has like this switch of all of a sudden he's jealous and he's angry at her. It felt like such a natural consequence of everything that's happened before. And it felt like such a instant change as to how we look at his character that it affects how we look at his character after the fact, and it's so much better because of it. Like, you're making me like him in the first third of the book, right? You're making me like him so much. All of a sudden you show me how much he's actually a terrible person, and I hate him now, but love the book. And yeah, I was just so surprised with how much I enjoyed this book. And honestly, I just wish that it was ended differently in terms of, as an enjoyer of these characters, I wish Sejanus wasn't killed. I wish that some other things happened, but also I know the future, obviously, starting this book. And so I know that that's not how things are going to go. I loved Dr. Gall. She was terrifying. She was terrifying and I hated her, but I loved her so much. I think there is a trend in the books that I'm reading this month of characters that I absolutely abhor and also love reading about because, oh my god. So yes, I enjoyed this book much more than I thought I was gonna enjoy it. It is very wordy. He thinks a lot. He talks a lot. Coriolanus, can you please just take a chill pill? But yeah, it was good. 4.5 for me. The next book I read was The Bone Clocks by David Mitchell. David Mitchell wants to kill me. David Mitchell is the author of Cloud Atlas as well, which is one of my favorite movies. And I guess one of my favorite books. But Cloud Atlas is one of my favorite movies of all time. Cloud Atlas, the book, is a really well-written book. Amazingly well-written. Makes me cry every time I think about it. And I've read a handful of his stuff, and I need to read more. Because David Mitchell wants to create the David Mitchell cinematic universe. Because I swear to God, every single book that he writes connects in some way to a different book. Like, for example, here in the Bone Clocks, there's a mention of the Prescients, which is a group of people in Cloud Atlas, which are the people who are survived the apocalypse. Apocalypse is about to happen in this book, but doesn't happen until the last chapter. Oh, also there's a mention of Felix fucking Finch, who also appears in Cloud Atlas. I love Cloud Atlas so much. So the Bone Clocks, David Mitchell writes very densely, and it is a slow burn. It is really slow. The plot doesn't pick up until page 400. There are 600 pages in this book. But the build-up is really nice, at least. And so if the plot didn't start picking up, at least the character work that we get is really good. It centers around Holly Sykes, the main character, who is this somewhat psychic woman. And we begin when she's like 15 and we go until she's like 80 years old. And it goes through different points of view of different people around her life as they're trying to live, alongside also a secret plot of these, oh god, atemporals, which are people that reincarnate every time they die into the body of someone who just died. And the atemporals, are also called, they form a group called the Orologists, which is the study of time, bone clocks. And they fight against the Anchorites, which is a group of atemporals. Atemporals obviously meaning people that are outside of time. And the Anchorites are immortal beings who consume the life force of psychic people like Holly to continue living in their present form. And so the Anchorites stay in the body that they were born in, but they are immortal. And the Orologists incarnate into different bodies but have the same soul. Right? Complicated shit. And it's mostly about Holly's involvement in this war between the Orologists and the Anchorites. I don't know why it's called the Bone Clocks. They mention Bone Clocks twice, and they do not say what it means. I can imply what it means in terms of the bodies that the Orologists live in, but either way, I think this book was more aesthetic substance over anything else. It was really beautiful written. David Mitchell always writes really, really dense, and it takes me a long time to read through his books. And it's a slow burn. It takes some time for the plot to pick up. But when the plot picks up, at least there's been enough bread trails in the setup to be able to catch up with what's being presented before us without there being like confusion about stuff. Like at least I know that David Mitchell will always lead me to the conclusion that he wants. There may be times when I'm reading and I'm like, David Mitchell, why are we doing this? Why is it taking so long? Why are we going through different routes to get to the very end? And I trust that he knows what he's doing because I've read so much of his stuff and I will read more of his stuff. If you don't have that trust in David Mitchell, I fully understand that, and so why I can understand why some of his books may be a little inaccessible. And yeah, this book is pretty inaccessible to some people. But overall, I think that this was a pretty good book. 3.5 out of 5 for me. Took some time to get to the crux of the story, the climax, but I enjoyed the entire ride there, even though some parts of it were definitely a little rocky in terms of how slow it was. But, David Mitchell, you have my heart. You're trying to kill me. You will not succeed, but you will try your hardest. Pretty good book. And the last book I read this month was the book of the month for April, 6 Days in Bombay by Alka Joshi. I I was really surprised with this book. This is only the third of the book of the month books that I've gotten, and so far it's been the best one. It's a 4 out of 5 for me. I really liked the character herself, Sona, the main character, who is a nurse in Bombay in 1937. And she takes care of this famous painter from India who is in the hospital. She takes care of her for 6 days, and then she dies. And then Sona has to go and do a mission, which is to give the paintings of this woman to her past friends. And I think beautifully written. Every single book of the month has been beautifully written. And oh, here's the author. For some reason, it feels very, very heavily inspired by Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, just in the way of like the main character talking to a famous person and learning from her. I have no way to prove this, but it feels very connected to Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. There's even a character named Taylor that appears once and not again. Just really quick American named Taylor, because the author of Seven Husbands is Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I feel like that was significant. But either way, in plot wise, doesn't even connect to the story. It's just the framing, I guess, felt very similar. And also to me, it felt similar to The Pursuit of William Abbey, which is one of my favorite books, but solely because it is in here a nurse talking to William Abbey about what pursues him. And here it's a nurse talking to Mira Novak about her life. Just because they're nurses. That's the only reason why I remembered The Pursuit of William Abbey. And it's also within the genre of like travel stories, I think. And I'm having trouble trying to remember the book or the movie that I read or watched that was about someone traveling different places and learning stuff from people and meeting people. Not like Eat, Pray, Love type of deal, but like someone who gets this opportunity to travel. And she travels from Bombay, Prague, Paris, Florence, London, and then back. The travels themselves took up half of the book, and the 6 days in Bombay were the first half when she's talking with Mira. And the character relationships that she's creating, the romance that she's having with two different men, so hot, first of all, and the growth that she goes through is also really beautiful. I loved the entire story and what it did to Sona, how it changed her, how it opened up her life for herself. I don't know why it was set in 1937, beyond just like the undercurrent of tension that is leading up to World War II. But then at the very end of the book, we skip over to 1956 or something. And it's like, oh my god, World War II just happened. Already happened. I don't really know why it was set in the past. It felt very timeless. It felt timeless, this kind of story, and which I liked a lot. So I don't know why it was specifically in 1937, but that's neither here nor there. I really enjoyed the traveling aspects as well. I just want more genre, specifically because in the book, what's it called? Blurb. It says the sweeping novel of identity and self-discovery takes readers from 1937 Bombay to Prague, Florence, Paris, and London to uncover the mystery behind the famous painter's death. And I feel like the mystery of the death, there was definitely a mystery as to how she died or like why she died, but it felt like there should have been more of a genre like mystery occurring, more stakes, more exciting things happening. I didn't want it to be like an action story, but I wanted it to be more like I don't know, not an espionage story. I just wanted more genre conventions and more genre moments than what actually happened. But that's a personal thing for me versus it's also just a really well written contemporary story. And so I was really impressed with this book of the month. And yeah, it's a 4.5 for me. I loved you. Also, compared to other book of the month stories that I've read, it's been the best one so far. I've only read three. But it's definitely a really good one. And yeah, that's all of the books that I read in this month. I really enjoyed all of them. The quality of all of them was amazing. And it might not have been as much as I wanted this month, especially because Bone Clocks took a lot longer than I expected. But still, I really enjoyed this month of reading. Currently, I am reading the Best American Science Fiction and Fantasy of 2015 anthology. This is the first of the series. I've read a handful of them. I've read 2019, 2020, 2022, and 2023. I, for some reason, skipped over 21, but simply just how things panned out. And I wanted to start from the very beginning because it begins in 2015. It's 20 science fiction and fantasy short stories that were published in 2015, and the entire series is edited by John Joseph Adams, but each book has a different editor who chooses those top 20 books, and here it's Joe Hill. Some of the most amazing short stories I've ever read that I would count to have changed my life has been in this series. 19, 20, and 23 are my favorites of the series so far. And I want to read all of them, and so I'm going to go through them, same way as I'm doing Septimus. And this book, I've only gone through, I think, like the first 10 stories, and it hasn't reached the highs yet of those other anthologies, but haven't finished it. I'm halfway through. I'm also annotating it to remember which books I like the most. And yeah, once I finish it, I will obviously be talking about it in the next monthly recap. And yes, thank you so much for coming with me to talk about all the books that I read in the past month of April, yes. Keep an eye out for all the other projects that I'll be working on. Don't forget to be passionate, and I'll see you later.